Welcome to an episode of In the Know. Today we're going to talk about trade deadline targets. The trade deadline is moving up. The Pelicans' recent play, how they've been dealing with the injuries that have hit them across the board, and much more. So tune in. That was cool. Oh, it's
Yep.
always cool.
Always cool.
You know what else is cool? That this podcast is sponsored by the Birdsall Law Firm, the official injury lawyers of Boot Crew Media, located at 918 Poydras Street by the Superdome. Give them a call at 504-523-5413. If you or someone you know has been involved in an accident, be sure to mention we sent you. Birdsall Law Firm, the official injury lawyers of Boot Crew Media. Shout out Birdsall. Mason, my man, how's it going? Your life's been kind of hectic. You've been on paternity leave. Beautiful baby daughter, Sophie. How's that been for you and your wife, and how's Sophie?
Thanks for asking. Everything's good. Everyone's healthy. It's a whirlwind. So she's 3 weeks tomorrow, and man, I haven't shaved. I shower every other day. Like this is just like I'm a disgusting human being right now. I'm still bathing a little bit more often than our daughter, but not by much. It's like I don't know, learning a bunch of stuff on the fly, and I don't know. It's very much. My wife and I were out getting a drink on Sunday, our very first time out, because her parents were watching the kiddo for a bit, and we're just joking about how like those Instagram posts and stuff. Everyone's like 1 month old, and like it's been a blessing, it's been a dream. That man, like or like it, they don't do anything like that. You're literally keeping them alive. It's there's no reactions to anything. It's just like you it can get a little frustrating at times, but she's beautiful. She is great. Those moments when they come, they're great, and we're just looking forward to the point where like we do things and like she smiles at us and she reacts to us or like to actual things that like make us feel good.
Yeah, when they start getting object permanence, like
yeah,
you don't have to take it out of the line of sight; it just vanishes from existence.
yeah,
So yeah,
so
but that's gonna be my follow up. Is like, you obviously like read a lot, talked to a lot of people, etc., to prepare yourself. But what's been one thing that's like really stood out to you, um, after Sophie was born, that like this is not what the way it was described to me as. Or is this more
uh,
than I anticipated? Or, it's just, it could be positive, it could be negative. I don't, I'm not trying to like assign a connotation to it, but what's something that caught
no.
you off guard?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of what I just said, that like there's
Yeah.
like you know that like they're not going to start actually like responding to things that you do like until a certain point in their lives, but just like there is just no gratification around anything that happens, like because you do see all this stuff around. I like how everyone talks about like entering parenthood and like it's a dream come true and it's hard, but it's a dream come true, and it's like right now it's kind of just hard. Like it's just you're putting in the time, the sleep schedule. Like I guess that's one thing is my wife and I have been doing like we're not sleeping at the same time. Like they say,
Mhm.
sleep when the baby sleeps, but also what we're doing is basically like she's taking like 2 or 3 naps throughout the day because she kind of has to get up every couple hours. And then like I sleep maybe from like 1 to 7, and I'll grab that block and then give her time like 2 or 3 sets or throughout the day where she's sleeping for like an hour and a half. So
Nice.
like that's kind of like it's been probably a little different, but it's working for us. And I go back to work next week, so we'll see how things change. But yeah, it's definitely a life turning your life upside down. But it's we're we're diving in.
Well, here's the good things that are on their way.
Yeah.
Excited. Thanks for sharing that
Yeah,
with
you
us.
were in and not just about me. You were in Austin last weekend, right? How was that?
Oh yeah, I was at a friend's bachelor's party. It was great. Austin, very fun city. We got ate a lot of food, an insane amount of food. I feel kind of disgusting with the amount of food that I ate.
Good
Um,
stuff. Did you find good stuff for your dietary restrictions and everything? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, they have a huge vegetarian selection pretty
yeah,
much anywhere we went.
yeah, nice.
And if not, there was like something nearby. Like so, like we went to this place called like Cosmic Coffee or Cosmic something or other, and it's like this big like outdoor area that's got like all kinds of different like boozy coffees, and they have this really famous barbecue food truck called I want to say like Lewis and Ray or something. I don't know, but like the line for that barbecue food truck was an hour and a half, and that's like why my party like wanted to go there. It was just um and next to it, they had like three or four other food trucks that had stuff for me. So I
Nice.
went there, got some tacos, burritos, that kind of stuff. But when their barbecue food came out, I'm like, I don't eat meat. I'm not particularly um, moved by like barbecue or red meat or anything like that. But when it came out, I'm like, wow, this looks really rich and well done, and looks like it was worth the wait. But yeah, so uh, we also like hit up the town, went to their version of bourbon called the Dirty Six, which I'm sure
Yeah.
you're familiar with.
Did you hit
If
barbs? He's
we
good
did
into
hit
barbs.
we did hit
Nice.
Barb. So
Nice.
for local listeners, Dirty Six is just like a whiter version of bourbon. Um,
So true.
and yeah, just a wider and wider. It's not as narrow. And then Barbarella is just like F&M. It's like F&M's, but they had TV screens playing music videos while like the music was going on, but they had one TV screen playing everything everywhere all at once, like the movie. It was just like the wildest like
Yeah.
experience to just kind of be in that like frame of mind, but also like kind of watching this movie. Anyways,
So
um,
yeah, and to explain what barbs is, so Austin, all the bars close at 2. But with Barbarella, that's the unique that it basically they stop serving booze at 2, but you can go there and you can get in before 2 and stay there until they close at like 3:30 or 4 or whatever. So that's the one place you can go and kind of stay later.
yeah, I mean, I, it was fun. The 2 o'clock like last call hard no alcohol rule or whatever caught us off guard for sure. The first night we were just, we went out like we left. We were doing things and like we went to like our venue the first night like at midnight. And then we were there for like an hour and a half. We're like, what? This is kind of lame. So we were just like, do people just start going out at like 9, 10? Like I don't really know what the rhythm is there, but it was a good time
Good,
nonetheless.
good.
Fun times in Austin.
Nice.
Anyways, to basketball stuff. Um, the Pelicans meanwhile have been struggling. They got back from a gnarly road trip. They went 2-3 on that road trip. Came home, dropped this game to Miami, worst loss of the season. I took my mother there for her birthday, and not the greatest game to take her to say the least. Um, but Mason, general thoughts on what's up with the Pelicans? There's obviously a lot of fans that are feeling strongly one way or another about what's happening with the team, what they should do, what they
Mhm.
shouldn't do. Just where you at?
Yeah, I mean the team. First, shout out to the guys who have been on the floor because they've been able to even on the road. It's hard to win on the road no matter where no matter who you're playing, and they've for the most part been able to take care of business against bad teams. And even without their best 2 players, being able to do that is notable and commendable. I think you saw um, the net result of that long road trip and putting in because they fought every minute of every game. Like there were no games where they could rest players for any. Even the Pistons game got close late. So unless I'm forgetting something, there didn't seem they didn't really get a bunch of like much reprieve throughout the road trip, and that just came to a head against the team, the Miami Heat, who of course, against the Pelicans, that got everyone healthy, right? They feel like they've been resting guys a lot, whether it's Lowry or Jimmy Butler, but everyone played and they blew the doors off the Pels. And so, look, they're doing what they can with what they got. Shout out to Willie Green, the coaching staff, and everyone. I think you and I both talked about some rotational nitpicks again with them, but they've they mostly done a fine job. But they need their stars. This isn't rocket science. Like they need their guys back to be the team that we have seen. And so hopefully that happens soon in BI's case. And we know Zion is probably a couple more weeks out at least, but we'll see. You muted.
I am muted. I was gonna say let's talk about the Brandon Ingram case. There was an article written by Christian Clark, which received a lot of attention. In that article, Christian talks about Brandon Ingram pretty glowingly, actually, on how he has been the face of the franchise. They've invested in him, and he's invested in them. They really love what he brings on and off the court. But the one thing he did mention is there is concern, internal concern from players and people on the team, with sort of how long he's taken to get healthy, and it's not a new thing. It's not something that's been just this season. It's kind of a multi-year process. Is something he said on a podcast recently, where there's been frustrations about him not coming back uh, until he feels like he's 100% healthy, or um, I guess I really don't know what Brandon Ingram feels, so I can't comment on what his threshold for coming back is, because I think if we look at the debate in that sense, like, hey, if you're the player, you don't feel 100% healthy, like, I think it's pretty cut and dry in my opinion. Like, if he doesn't feel healthy, he doesn't feel healthy. Like, he can't play.
Especially lower
Um,
body. Lower body is a different animal. That could, when you're every single movement, versus like a shoulder or something like that, or a
right,
torn labrum.
right. So I think none of us can put ourselves in Brandon Ingram's shoes and assume what he's feeling, but um, you know, what's going on, where the frustration is coming from, is the fact that it was just a contusion, a less severe injury than other players who've had injuries to that area of the body, and the MRI has been clean, the X-rays have been clean, everything else has been clean, and so I don't know if this is something where um, they just need better diagnosis. Like, do they need better testing? Do we need like, I don't know if he's gone to like a third party or an outside individual, what the case is. But there is a disconnect between how the team sees, where his health is at versus where he sees where his health is at. And we've seen these disconnects like cause a schism between a player and a front office before, notably Kawhi. We kind of saw it with Derrick Rose, and I don't think this is something that's headed down that route in any capacity, because I don't think the Pelicans are like really and truly applying pressure uh, to get him to play. They've been accommodating to the nth degree, and they may grumble about it behind the scenes, but I don't. I think they realize, like, okay, he's just gonna play when he plays. But I wanted to get your thoughts on what do you think? What do you make of that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, similar to you in the sense that there's things you literally can't know unless you are Brandon Ingram as far as how things feel, right? And so everything has to kind of fall back to that, where you can't really, eviscerate the guy because he's not on the floor, even though he's cleared. If he's not, it doesn't feel right. Um, that being said, I think that there is a limit to what, not just the front office, but like even the teammates will, put up with, for lack of a better term. I feel like, one, they're winning. They have been winning, so it's okay. And two, I think there's something to be said for the fact that Brandon Ingram's absence has allowed other guys, notably guys who are not on big contracts, to step up into bigger roles, and they've had success. And so, you look at guys like Najee Marshall, Jose Alvarado, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, when he's been playing. I mean, all these guys are playing for, like, relatively speaking, peanuts compared to some of the bigger contracts. And so have them being able to play more minutes and play bigger roles should help them down the road as far as their next contract. And so that, I think, there might be some financial reasons why they're not hearing rumblings. That combined with winning helps. The problem is when games like what happened last night happen in the Miami Heat games. If that starts to, they play good teams, and that starts to happen more often. And look, they've got two more road games coming up. Orlando's next, and then Miami again. And so the combination of long road trips, depleted roster, without your stars, that can lead to more games that are similar to what we saw against the Heat. And so if that happens, then you start to probably maybe feel a little bit more animosity and some nervousness with the team. And so that's what you really don't want to see, is, like, I mean, the front office can have their opinions about this, and I think, fair enough, but you don't want to see any sort of bad blood start to occur in the locker room, like with guys like Larry Nance and Jonas playing through injuries when BI isn't. And so again, those injuries are maybe smaller, and with Larry, it's an upper body, or I guess it's been a little bit of both. He's had some Achilles soreness too. So I mean, that's the one thing I want to make sure is avoided, is any sort of like inner team, animosity, which Christian did allude to a little bit in his article, but it, seems like it's okay for now.
Yeah, I mean, look, and one thing I want to comment on is it's not just the front office, right? It's people in the coaching staff, and,
Sure.
and
Yep.
players, like you just mentioned, players in the locker room as well, that feel this level of frustration. What I'll say is that there is something to be said about guys like Jonas, literally like not wanting to miss a game ever. Guys like Jose guys. I mean, Jose's got money to play for, right? Like Jose is going to try to play every single game he can because he has a contract to play for. But like Larry's been trying to like get out there and battle it out. The situation with Zion was not medically cleared by the team. He was cleared by his own staff, or the people around him. He wanted to desperately get back on the court. He was trying to show off his windmills, the whole time, apply pressure on the Pelicans.
Yeah.
The other way around, right? This is the complete inverse of that situation.
Yeah.
And so there was that going on. But with Brandon Ingram, I think the long term approach, a lot of people understand it. That doesn't make the frustrations any less, right? In the present moment, no one likes losing. No one likes just kind of watching their max player teammate be on the sideline when they're going to war and battling night in night out. But I think long term, I tweeted about this, is when he gets back on the court and they get back to their winning ways, like people won't care. Like they do not care. All of that goes away. We've seen it to like we've seen it with Zion, right? Everything that was said by everybody last year, including us. No one cares. No one, like there's obviously like those like stan accounts on Twitter that screenshot everything and remember things for all of eternity, but nobody cares in general like what occurred in the past. Like nobody is going to talk about how like Zion skipped out on Nashville because it doesn't matter. He is an MVP level player when he's on the court. He's going to contribute at a high level. And the Pelicans are really good when he plays. They win games, so it doesn't matter. Same thing will happen with Brandon Ingram. It won't matter. He just needs to get healthy. Your screen is frozen in a really weird place, and I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I was trying to see if I can shut down some other stuff. Like I could hear you the entire time. Just like
Gotcha. It was really funny. It was a funny face. I'm like,
I hope it shows up. Yeah, I hope it shows up when we actually release it. So that'd be good.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
The Brandon Ingram situation. I think that the biggest frustration from me individually is just having complete lack of clarity of like what the timeline is, and that's been an issue with this team and the players on this team for eternity.
Yeah, I mean, like I think, like I don't know anything about this, but I would bet. So do you remember that game where it was recent where CJ sat just for rest purposes?
Mm-hmm.
I would bet a lot of money that they probably said, Jonas, take a break, and then Jonas said no. He still played.
He was listed as questionable.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I was like, oh, there's no way he's gonna play. Like, just rest everyone. Who cares? And I think, was it the Mavs game? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
And so, but yeah, it's I guess my question back to you, I think transitioning to the next topic you mentioned at the top of the episode was, how do you think this kind of ongoing inability to see all the guys on the floor together impacts the Pelicans' approach with the trade deadline? Like, do you just have to, make some assumptions, or are you more patient at the deadline than you would be otherwise, just because you don't have the data to work with?
I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I think it's just a matter of personal preference. For me, I can't wait around for them to get healthy. I just can't. It's been 4 years. They've played 90 something games together.
I agree.
10 games of the big three this season. It's just, the time's going to pass you by if you're waiting on this kind of stuff. So what I can do is I have data on how good Zion is. I have data on how best to use him. I have data on how good Brandon Ingram is, right? The theoretical fits of those two guys together, I can trust that talented players can figure it out next to each other. And I am always trying to accumulate talent more throughout throughout the season, throughout the team building process. And so if I can approach this deadline and bring someone who is a needle mover, who is going to either help out with my regular season win total, help maintain home court advantage. B, if like we're just not going to have one of these guys in the playoffs, well, that's another reason to go get a guy. C, if we do have these guys in the playoffs and we got this guy, then you're looking at a team that can make a deep run. And so I just see very little downside with I mean, the downside is like opportunity cost and not building slowly and that kind of stuff. But I'm not moved by that. That's never been something that's concerned me. My team building philosophy has always been get as much talent as possible. That's either through the draft with high level draft picks, or cobbling together said draft picks and players to get needle mover type players. So whatever approach they take, and I think those approaches apply differently, and this is a weird time where I think the Pelicans can do both. They can cobble together a bunch of draft picks that are not the Lakers pick and go get that needle mover, and then still have a lottery level pick um, that they hold on to and they bring into the system this summer. And so like they have the ability to do that. It's just why not do that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think if the move's there, you just gotta you know the skills of the players you have, and you're just gonna have to take that shot. If the player's available and you think the price is right, make the move.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're probably going to. I think they have to move Devontae. I really do. They have to move Devontae, and I think they have to move Jackson, because that's like otherwise you're just not going to be able to use Jackson's salary this summer. Ideally, they can put Temple in a deal too, but we're not really worried about that. But let's talk about Devontae for a second, and circle back to trade targets in a little bit. Devontae Graham, I tweeted, the last 25 games, he's averaged 4 points a game, 28% shooting. 25 games, 4 points a game. Like, yeah, he's not playing that many minutes, 15, 17 minutes a game. That's miserable. That's miserable. And I, like, for the life of me, do not understand. Okay, for the first maybe 10, 15 of those, Kyra wasn't healthy, right? Like, I get it. He's cleared. He's playing. He's done his sit down in the G League. What has to occur to get Devontae out of the rotation? What? Like, there is no bar of failure that seemingly it can't be crossed. He's just on the court no matter what he does. It does not matter. He could literally take a on like the logo. Oh no, I shouldn't be cursing.
I know. I messed up at the top of the broadcast. I when I was talking about the kid.
Oh no, Lala, I apologize. We're gonna have to censor this. Crap. Anyways, what I just don't understand what needs to occur to get him off the court. We have a 25 game sample. We had an enormous sample with Garrett Temple last year of him just being horrible. So
Devontae wasn't good last year too. Beyond once basically he was decent in 2021. Once the calendar flipped, it's been like a year plus of him just being not great. I mean,
I give him a ton of credit for doing his job last year. He held the fort down while Zion was out and CJ wasn't on the team. He was a positive, like a net rating positive. He was a contributor to a very potent starting lineup. Those aren't something you scoff at, but that's clearly not the case right now, right? Like, at what point does his lack of production, lack of efficiency, lack of ability to impact the game in any meaningful way make you look at your lottery pick, who hasn't had time to get extended run, and you don't know what you have with him, and he does have at least an outlier level skill or attribute, which is his speed. So, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. I don't have a good answer. It's and like
people are like, well, why don't you ask Willie Green that? And I'm like, one thing I need y'all to understand is when the media asked Willie Green that kind of stuff last year, it did not work out, right? He was oftentimes just not happy about those questions, giving very short responses. And then the final one, he just straight up said, I don't know. So it's not, you were just not going to get the response that you're hoping for. He's not going to be like, well, Devontae does X, Y, Z things better, and Kyra doesn't do these things. He's just not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just not going to ask that question.
Yeah. It's not even like, I don't think teams are respecting his jump shot. Like at this point, he's
They
he's
don't
he's
care.
he's undersized, so it's not so you can close out on him fairly easily. And yes, he is one of the few players in the Pelicans besides like Trey Murphy and maybe CJ sometimes who aren't afraid to pull up like from 3 or 4 feet behind the 3 point line. But teams don't care, and he's not making them at a high enough clip to matter. Like so, I don't understand it. And you could just outright remove him from the rotation if the team was healthy. Not that I'm saying Willie would, but at this point you've got to find a replacement somewhere. And I'm with you. Like why not give Kyra a shot? Like at the very least, you've got to find out what you have in him, and you can't like replacing Devontae's minutes with his. I don't see how it makes the team worse. I just don't.
Right. Like a worst case scenario, Kyra also gives you 4 points a game on 28% shooting. Like, what are we doing here? And please, like, I am not going to believe that there is a massive defensive difference between Kyra and Devontae. First of all, Kyra might just straight up be better on defense. But I don't believe that there is some massive defensive difference to where in those possessions the game is going to be swung upon the 15 minutes or the 9 minutes you give Kyra versus Devontae. Like,
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying something?
No, like just like in beyond, like if we've said this for months, like if Devontae's not making threes, what is he doing for you? Just kind of big picture wise, and like with Kyra, you at least get a point guard, more of a point guard skill set. You get a guy who is, like you said, very fast, can facilitate for others. He's going to turn the ball over because that's what young point guards do, is turn the ball over. But I want like watching these last few games for the Pelicans, like I just want somebody besides Dyson Daniels who could throw an entry pass into Jonas Valanciunas. Like I feel like the Pelicans don't have that, and like that's one of the things we were talking about Jose closing instead of Dyson, and not neither of us being a fan of that. But like there's some basic skills that I feel like you can like. Why not try guys who might have that skill?
And even if they don't have that skill, you know what Kyra can do that maybe one other person can do on this team on like a consistent level is put the ball on the floor and get to the rim. He can do that. Like if he's trying to fake that entry pass in and someone's biting on it, he's just gonna zoom by you. Like he just needs a step to zoom by you. And the thing is, like right now we're in the doldrums of the season, and a lot of these like rotation guys have been extended beyond their role, and they're struggling, and their efficiency is dipping, their consistency is dipping, and then Jose's been one of those guys. Jose's he started off the year extremely hot. He was shooting like 70% at the rim. He was shooting like 44% from three, and all of those numbers have quietly dipped down. And the Jose still has his nights where okay, he's like, all right, you're doing great stuff on the court. He's always going to be an energy factor. I don't think Kyra should be coming for Jose's minute by any means, but they're giving Devontae minutes. And while guys are hurt, this is the perfect time to slide him into the lineup. When Brandon Ingram comes back, when Zion comes back, you may never have minutes for Kyra. You just straight up might not have minutes for him. And you will at that point you have then had 3 seasons of his career and not figured out what he is. And that to me is a failure of not management, because that is a failure of a coaching staff just not figuring out what they got on their own team. And even guys like Jackson have gotten opportunity over and over and over and over again. I understand he's a big, plays a different position, but my God, what does it take to get Kyra on the court?
Yeah, don't have a good answer, but we'll see. We'll see if things change. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like we both kind of agree that Devontae isn't going to last past the trade deadline, and so I don't know. I mean, are they? I feel like the Pels pushed too many chips in when it came to Devontae's minutes this year. I feel like he had a stretch like he did last year too. He had a stretch where he was decent, and then he reverted back to what we've mostly seen from him.
But even his decent stretch didn't move the needle. Like that's the thing. Even Devontae at his best didn't move the needle. It was Zion lifting those units, right? It was all the others kind of like putting in their work, and you're okay. Like these minutes are tenable when Zion's going nuclear and Devontae's hitting 2 threes per game. Like okay, like what? Anyways, we spent a lot on Devontae, and like it. I really don't like coming across like I dislike the guy, because like it's just not has nothing to do with him. But
I think just one last comment on this is like it's not with Garrett Temple last year. We were kind of incensed because it was actually impacting the Pelicans win-loss record. Like I think we can fairly say that. I do not believe that changing Devontae for Kyra meaningfully changes the team's overall outlook. But I think it's more about we want to see Kyra play. Like we want to see what they've gotten this lottery pick, And so that to me, that's what it's about. You may disagree about the overall impact on the standings or win-loss record. Does Devontae to Kyra really swing a game or two? I don't buy it, but I really want to see Kyra and what the Pelicans have with him because time is kind of if the team continues to improve and improve, the opportunities for him, like you said, dwindle. And so, like, what better chance do you have to see what you got in him than right now?
Nobody knows. Changing gears, based off of reporting, based off of things I've heard, things you may have heard, things that we've frequently discussed on this podcast for who knows, why would we talk about those things? It does seem like the two main targets for the Pelicans at the trade deadline that are materializing are OG Anunoby and Bojan Bogdanovic. We've discussed those two players at length on this pod. Not just this year, we've spent summer talking about some of these players too, and those are the two hottest names on the trade market. Every team wants to be a part of trying to get one of those players. And the reporting, let's talk about OG for a second, because the reporting on him seems to be kind of all over the place. Oh, they want a Donovan Mitchell type package. Oh, they want a DeJounte Murray type package. Oh, actually, it's going to cost two young players and a pick maybe. I don't think anything is particularly reliable at this juncture, nor is it reflective of what's actually going to happen at the deadline. I think things change very rapidly in those last 48 hours. The biggest one, is if you remember the Vlade Divac interview after Boogie was traded, and they asked him like, like, what is this the best you could get? He's like, we actually had a better deal 2 days ago or something. It was just like
I
that.
thought you were about to talk about like a Vlade Divac trade, like back when he
No,
was playing. I was like, I
no, when he
don't.
was
Whatever
the
you're about to
G,
say, I don't remember.
he was the GM of the Kings, and the whole Boogie stuff was like, oh, we're not trading Boogie. Oh, we're not trading Boogie. Oh, we're not trading Boogie. The Pelicans have traded for Boogie. And then they interviewed him, and they're like, well, you got one first round pick. He's like, there was actually two on the table like a few days ago, and it's like,
Gangs.
uh,
Well, we can't really. I
um,
feel like we should talk shit about the Kings because they're actually playing pretty damn well right
the
now. So
Kings are ahead of the Pelicans in the loss column and
standings now they're
in the
ahead
standings.
winning percentage too. Yeah.
Yeah, and they are a really fun team with a really fun coach. Love De'Aaron Fox, love Sabonis. But yeah, that's what happened, and it happens every year. Teams have to then make a decision on like, okay, are we going to pull the trigger? Is this the best we can get, or are we just hold on to our guy? The Toronto Raptors held on to their guy in Kyle Lowry last year or 2 years ago, when he was
Like
on the market, and
the
they kind of
Maxi
like,
offer, right? Maxi was
yeah,
offered.
they kind of like, there was
They
a lot
botched
of
that.
things.
Yeah.
Anyways, curious to see if they've like learned from that, quote unquote, or if that's just the approach they're going to play. I have heard that they are trying to combine OG and Gary Trent Jr. for something bigger, trying to make a play at a star, but it certainly seems like that's not panning out. And their runway on that is quickly closing.
Rudy
Um,
Gobert might be available.
yeah, I think I might want to check on that. I want to check on Rudy Gobert. Yeah, I was just like D'Angelo Russell. It's an all-star. Gordon Hayward, former all-star. um, yeah, I mean, I just if OG and Gary Trent could get you a star, then I think a lot of other teams would be calling about said star.
Yeah.
Including the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans could also go get after that star. So I think it's just a waiting game to see like what's going on. They also have Fred VanVleet, who seems to be more likely to be moved than not. One of my favorite hilarious fake trade scenarios is getting Jonathan Isaac to the Toronto Raptors to keep bringing in 6'9" basketball weirdos who can't shoot but are good at defense and switch and all that kind of stuff. That'd be pretty funny. I think they could probably
Is
do
is
like
Isaac
so.
allowed to play in Canada?
Oh my god. That's a good question.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I read something that said that even the Kansas lacks their vaccination policies, but I
He
think it's still
probably is, right? Kyrie did. Oh, I don't know, dude.
anyway. Um,
Yeah. Oh, we'll have to look that up. Anyways, that would be really funny if that's what like the trade doesn't go down. But I mean, they could put it together with like Mo Bamba, Terrence
yeah,
Ross, some young players, some picks. They could kind of like
yeah,
make that work.
yeah. I
But
think it's I think to speak to things gonna or the dynamics will change as we get closer to the deadline. There's something to be said for the fact that the play-in has created a scenario where you've got a lot more buyers and sellers. I guess what I'm curious about is who are the kind of stand pat teams, because I feel like we always talk about it with these two extremes, like who's buying, who's selling. Like I feel like there are some teams this year maybe who just kind of like are gonna wait it out and not even like try to do anything. Like the Pacers, I feel like are a good example of like, oh well, we're better
I
than
think
we
the Pacers are
expected.
buyers.
You think they're big? You think so? I mean, they're
I think they're
500
going to
right
attempt.
now.
I think they're going to attempt to buy.
Yeah.
Whether they choose, whether they succeed,
Right.
is a different question. I think they're going to attempt to buy. I think they're going to try to use Turner as a buying chip, not a selling chip.
Yeah.
I think they well, even if it's like Aiden, right? I think I consider that as a buy move.
Yeah.
I think they're going to attempt to buy. I think OKC will stand pat. I think they'll do like money laundering moves.
Money. I love what you call it, that money laundering.
I think they'll do that. San Antonio probably does. So I think some of these bad teams like do some of those cap moves, but like, do the Bulls do anything? I don't think they do. The Blazers probably. Blazers want to buy. Does anyone want any of their stuff? Probably not.
Yeah.
I think Josh Hart moves. I think they have to move Josh Hart. I think he's gonna opt out. I think they're gonna.
I'm curious what they do, because like they're getting a couple of guys healthy now, like Gary Payton.
They've been
second,
healthy.
but
They stink. Gary
they're
Payton.
2 games
Gary.
under 500. They don't stink. The Suns are 3 games under 500. Like there are
They
two
also
teams
stink.
that stink. There are 2 teams in the West that stink. They're the
Okay,
Spurs
no,
and the
those are
Rockets.
super stinkers. These are just like the regular old stinkers. Like nobody cares. Whatever. Anyways, I think they move Josh Hart. I think they move him for even if it's like a re-roll on the salary. Like getting someone that has money
One
next
more
year.
year.
Yeah. So yeah, I think they move Josh Hart. But I don't know. It could be a wild deadline. Could be a not wild deadline. Oh, Toronto and a star. Does Kristaps count? He's been playing really well.
See, I could see.
Would you move OG and Trent for Kristaps?
No, I would not. I would not do that. But I could see a world where Siakam and Kristaps work together. I could
I
see
think they
that.
could be a good team. I think you would
Yeah.
want OG on that team though.
Yeah, you would.
So maybe they can do Fred and Trent for Kristaps.
That's not bad. Yeah, and I feel like the Wizards could use some. I guess. I mean,
They need a real. I mean, Monty Morris is good, but
yeah,
I think they need like a real point guard. Well,
yeah,
like someone better than Monty Morris.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Tough to see. The Knicks, I think, want to do some stuff. They're a good team so far.
Yeah.
Stand pat. Boston and Memphis probably stand pat.
Yeah. Yeah. Atlanta's kind of in that same spot as Indiana, I think. Like teams around 500 that like could trade good players as buyers, like you mentioned, Miles Turner. Like obviously, I mean, do you think John Collins goes by the deadline? Does it finally happen?
Oh my God, John Collins, dude, I would like to see him in Utah or Indiana. I think that's another, like that's
Miles
another
Turner
really,
for Collins? No, that doesn't work with
yeah.
Capella there. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
I don't think they care. They being Atlanta, I think they just that they get money on, like they just get off that contract. Like if they get Turner in a pick, I think Atlanta is more than happy.
You could probably make a 3-teamer.
Yeah, you can probably just reroute Turner to like Charlotte.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I think that's totally doable. I think Collins probably ends up in Utah or Indiana.
Yeah.
Dang, I think we've kind of gone through some of those major pieces. The one thing I think people I want to stress is the Pelicans are very keenly looking at their tax situation. If they trade for OG, they're almost assuredly going to be a tax team next year. I mean, they could like move Larry or Jonas at some point or a couple other players to get under. And that's a decision they don't have to make until the end of next year. They don't have to do it in the summer. They can do it at the deadline. They can even do it at the end of the year. Like when they're eliminated from their postseason run, they can do that.
Yeah.
But that'll be up to them to decide what they want to do. They trade for Bojan, they'll have a little bit more flexibility. Because I think he's a little. Well, no, it's the same situation.
Same
Not really.
situation, but I
Yeah,
think it's
you're
a
right.
good it's a good point on the other side of that coin too, is that those guys are both making just under 20,
Yeah.
and so like that does give you the flexibility if you really wanted to. Whereas like if you go trade for John Collins, like sorry, you're kind of stuck. You're paying the
hmm
tax next year, right?
Same
Whereas
with Aiden.
yeah. Whereas like if you go trade for OG, or you go trade for Bogdanovich, like if you really want to be a team that's competing for the finals, you better pay the tax next year. But if something goes wrong and you want to get out from under it, you should be able to without a ton of pain. So
Yeah, I mean,
I think
someone would
that's a
want
good
OG
salary
at the
range.
deadline. Someone would want Bojan at the deadline, and
Right.
or one of these other like Jonas would be an
Or
expiring.
Jonas, right? That would probably be the prime candidate if they need to get under next year. Is probably
Yeah,
Jonas.
I,
But
I think they should keep all those guys together. But
yeah, I
but
guess
things can go sideways. Things can go
yeah.
sideways.
Yeah. Last question for me, I guess, is Jonas is a good topic. I think. Do you feel like how they've been forced to rely on him more essentially with the injuries? But what do you see happening whenever this team gets back to full strength? I mean, do you see and obviously post trade deadline, you could have a brand new face in the locker room that makes this question irrelevant. But like, do you think that Jonas has earned himself more trust from Willie Green, the coaching staff, in crunch time minutes when the team's fully healthy? Do you think he's a little less reliant on Larry Nance and we'll go to Jonas in the right matchups, or do you think we go exactly back to where we were before?
I think we go exactly back. I'm not a believer that Willie has changed on this front. I think he's just doing it out of necessity.
Yeah.
And which is unfortunate. Jonas has been
Yeah.
playing extremely well. Um, I just I think he sees I think like Jonas and Billy are judged a little bit on a different scale than some of the other players on the Pelicans, and I don't know why that's the case. But I think there was a moment where like Willie like publicly chewed out like Billy after like missing a rotation or something. He did like he called it angry timeout to do that with Jonas, and like I have not seen him do that with any of the other players. Um, which is unfortunate. I've seen him coach up players, and maybe I've missed it, but I just don't think he like views them similarly to the other players. And I think when the trade is made, that's what happens. Although like God, like if they trade for OG and that's your starting lineup, like I can't find five better starting lineups. And that should be your closing lineups. And I think when you close with Larry, I've said this all year long, you do this when you have a lead and you want to keep the other team off the 3-point line. You switch everything. You make all those threes either iso ball threes or um, contested threes. You give up twos while you're scoring on the other end because you shouldn't be able to beat the Pelicans from two. You shouldn't. Uh, but we've obviously seen things not go the way they need to go before.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I expect that you're right. I'm hoping that there's at least a little bit of a shift, even if it's just situational. Even if there are certain, I feel like Willie went exclusively to Larry Nance in crunch time, kind of before the injuries popped up. But even this to see that change. But I guess like even most recently, like he went to Jackson when he should have gone to Billy, like, and he went to Billy when he should have gone to someone else. Like I feel like I don't know. I feel like situational matchups aren't a thing that he likes to do. But we'll see. So I
That's
think
the
you're
thing
right.
is like if you trade for a guy like OG or even if it's Trent,
Matchup
and they're
proof.
in the well, yeah like does the offense and does the lineup get so good to where you're just like, I just got to keep playing my best guys? Because like it could look completely different when those are the five guys. Obviously, I have no idea when people are going to be healthy,
Yeah.
but yeah, hey, I don't know what that does for the team. I mean, it could just change their outlook. Be like, we're just so dominant, like we're going to keep playing these guys.
Yeah.
Tough. Well, here's a question: if you trade for Bojan, is he coming off the bench or is he starting for you?
I think he's got to start. He's playing so well in Detroit. I think he certainly closes. I could see the argument to him not starting, but I think he does. I mean, like you surround CJ.
So you just go all in on offense, and your defense is like,
Unless you start Najee, right?
Well, who you benching?
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, look, we don't have a ton. I don't have a ton of time left, but like I think there's some Trey Murphy discussion we need to have too about his tentativeness. But
Trey Murphy discussion in a nutshell is he's got to be better.
Yeah.
He's got to provide more than just his spacing and shooting. He's got to rebound the ball. I do like his activity. He's been getting a lot of blocks and steals recently. So that's been good. He's got to rebound the ball. You can't call yourself 6'10. And not rebound. The
He's got to shoot
expectation
it. He's got to shoot the damn ball. Like
yeah. Oh, that too is like
Yeah.
shoot the ball, and I think part of that is his footwork and release point make it a little bit difficult to shoot it over closeouts. But he's got to get comfortable doing that. I think right now the team is just like scared to make mistakes, and some of that's going on.
I want to believe that's why. I was talking actually with Adam McCreary, so Kristen Clark's co-host on their podcast, and so one thing was, is he just so hyper focused on percentages, like, and just he's afraid to take shots that are even mildly contested when he, like, sometimes those are good shots, and so with him I think they are good shots. He's so tall he can shoot over guys, and so I just wish he'd take more contested threes, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but I feel like
I don't know if it's about percentage. I just think that like they're very possession oriented, and like I don't think he has the full backing and trust of Willie Green, and so he's not going to do something.
Yeah, he's been benched in closing minutes, so that makes
in other times. Like I think it's a world of difference when you have the full support of a coaching staff behind you versus like you're kind of walking on eggshells. And I don't want to like make it out that like like Trey.
No,
Damn it! Can't curse. Trey messes up once and it becomes a problem. But I do think he has a shorter leash. I think he's amongst those people. But like I said, he can while he's dealing with that stuff, he needs to be able to show up on the box score and impact the game in other ways. So yeah, I do think that he's got a good future ahead of him, though.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so back to that question. I guess we can wrap it. Like, do you not think do you bring Bogdanović off the bench, or do you've been pounding the drum on like let's go all offense for a while now? I feel like you're gonna start him.
I would, assuming none of Trey, Najee, Herb, Dyson are in that Bojan deal. I assume none of those young players are in that deal. I would still want to start Najee.
Okay.
And I think I am all out on Herb Jones as a starter in this team construction. If they go and get a guy like Kristaps as their 5, I'm back in. But as long as Herb and Jonas are on the team and Zion is healthy, I am out on Herb Jones as a starter. So I need someone else that gives you more offense. I would start Najee, and I would 100% close to Bojan, and I'd try to find a way to get Bojan 30 to 33 minutes a game.
Okay. Yeah.
There might be like a couple games where I don't close with Bojan, just matchup dependent, but like he needs to be an integral part of whatever the Pels are doing.
Yeah, he's like what? He's 6'6", 6'7". I don't know how tall he is, but yeah.
Yeah, 6'7".
Yeah, at least you got the size here, but I mean they've got. Yeah, you've got some. You absolutely need Jonas is so important to that lineup because you need the rebounding.
You're not starting. Yeah, Jonas. That's just not happening.
Well, just like he needs to play like a lot or play like real starter minutes, not just like this fake stuff where Larry Nance gobbles up a lot of what he was doing.
Right. Another thing is like trading for Bojan directly cuts into Trey's minutes, which is like not great from a development standpoint. But I think if they're smart, they can manage all of that.
Yeah, for sure. And you also like. I think I would still, if I'm going to start someone that's not Bojan, I would still like. I feel like I'm. I would start Dyson instead of Najee if I was going to go with that. Like I feel like it's okay to have a lower usage guy in there, like Dyson. Obviously, he's got to do some things better, but I don't know. I really want Najee to just mash against second units, and I just feel like there's enough creation with that. And we've talked about this before, but like I get where you're coming from.
I just again the Dyson Daniels conversation is he has got to be a threat offensively. I can't bench Herb and then bring in Herb 2.0, who is also reluctant to shoot and not, giving you what you need offensively. And that's a little bit different with Dyson because like he can put the ball on the floor, playmaking and all
Right.
that. But
It's
we've
big.
clearly seen that they don't trust him as
Trust
a
them.
full-time point guard yet, and it's just
Yeah.
fine. He's got to earn his dues. He's also got to show that he's ready for it. But when Zion's on the court, Biaz on the court, like that last guy is just not going to have the ball. Like I don't care, like they're
Right.
just not going to have the ball that much. And so I think Najee just is a little bit better in terms of like playing off of others offensively because he can maintain a level of aggression that just Dyson and Herb haven't shown yet.
Yeah.
Or like Herb can be aggressive, but he just isn't good offensively.
Yeah, I will acknowledge it to a point. I'm maybe thinking a little too much about like what benefits the player most versus what benefits the team most, and I'm less thinking about like Dyson with those starters. Seems like that's an environment where he can thrive versus Dyson with the bench lineups. I think that you've got some ball handling across him and some of the second unit guys, but like how much shot creation do you have? But you're going to stagger starters, so like does it really? That's probably not a
Yeah.
big concern.
I mean, if Bojan's there, I think things become
Yeah.
easier. Like that answer becomes easier.
Yeah. Anyway.
Good problems though. Good problems. Pels got good players.
Yeah.
Pels got good players.
Yeah.
Anyways, Mason, I don't want to take too much of your time from your family. So I appreciate you joining me here. And folks, thanks for listening. Just want to give a quick shout out to DraftKings. 4 NFL teams, 2 conference championship games, and only a few more shots to win big on the playoffs with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Counting down to Super Bowl 57, new customers can bet just $5 and get $200 in free bets instantly. If you're not a new customer, you can feel the conference championship thrills with stepped up same game parlays. Take your shot at an even bigger NFL payout and boost your winnings with each leg. You add up to 100%. I love football, so I will be keeping an eye on all of these games. Bet on all the football games. But download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the promo code BOOT, BOOT, as you see on your screen. New customers can bet $5 on the conference championships and get $200 in free bets instantly, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Use the code BOOT, BOOT. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. If you got a gambling problem, call 877-8-HOPENY. That's for New York, HOPENY. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-GAMBLER. Yeah, that's the DraftKings, baby. Make sure you check them out.